minus 1 minute. T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Job right now, that is only a season. If your business is going in the wrong direction, it's a seasonal slide. If you have no money right now, the good news is I am seasonally broke. Tell your neighbor, it's only for a time. That's the good news. That's why we are always reminded, never make a permanent decision in a temporary problem.
The most dangerous things we are spreading right now is not the virus. It's fake news, anxiety, depression. Stop spreading those stuffs. Stop being scared. It's not time to be scared. It's time to knowing the truth and become alert. Maybe you are scared because you are in bad times. You got locked inside of your home. Maybe you lost your job. But this is not the first time. Remember how many times you have failed in life. How many times did you lose your job? How many times you failed? How many times you financially got crashed? And you conquer those situations. Everything ends. Nothing lasts forever. So it's time to be positive. It's time to make your immune system strong. It's time to share love and courage and new ideas with friends and family. Because together with love and positivity, we can beat every bad times. Stay home, stay safe. Good time is coming.
Change is inevitable. Change is also the principle of life. That means everything that is alive will change. And even things that are not alive will change. You know, a lady came to me, she says, I came to the Bahamas for the last 10 years and I missed 4 years. And I came here this past month and everything is different. The airport is new, she said. What happened to the old airport, she says. In other words, even the things not alive are changing. The way the river runs down the mountain is wearing away the mountain. You go back to that mountain 10 years later and the river is wider. Change is in creation. It's part of life. So here is the question then. Ecclesiastes chapter 3. It says, to everything there is a season. And to every purpose under heaven there is a time for it. To everything, there's a season.
A pleasant good night, everyone. Welcome to Friday Night Live. Men of Purpose Talks. Tonight's topic, as announced, is the evil agenda for the male gender. I thought I would have been able to complete this tonight, but after going into some major studying, I realized that it will take more than just one night. So let's call this part 1. Let's go. Whether you believe it or not, there is an agenda. There is an agenda against the word gender. Gender, as one generation may have known it, is different from what it is called today. Gender now is whatever the powers that be want it to mean now. In the advent of this recent pandemic, there seems to be a plot of mind control against the world population. There has been a literal brainwashing that is happening in broad daylight, that a lot of people are too taken up with the quote-unquote COVID-19 that they are not seeing what is really taking place and what is really happening right in front of our eyes. A lot of people are being affected by it. A lot of people are not aware of what is happening. That's why today I wanted to just make the case for the agenda. Part 1. Quote, absolute behavior control is imminent. The critical point of behavior control, in effect, is sneaking upon mankind without his self-conscious realization that a crisis is at hand. Man will never self-consciously know that it has happened. Raymond Houghton, from the book To Nurture Harness, Curriculum Arm of the National Educational Association, 1970. In 1969, from the Department of Behavioral Science, it was stated the Protestant ethic will atrophy as more and more enjoy varied leisure and guaranteed sustenance. Most people will tend to be hedonistic. That's from the Educational and Welfare Department since 1969. Here's another quote. We were trained in all phases of warfare, both philosophical and physical, for the destruction of the capitalistic society of Christian civilization. In one portion of our studies, we went thoroughly into the matter of psychopolitics. This was the art of capturing the minds of a nation through brainwashing and fake mental health. I needed to say, it goes on to say that this was the art of capturing the mind of a nation through brainwashing and fake mental health. During the past years, I have noted with horror the increase of psycho-political warfare upon the American public. Kenneth Goff, member of the U.S. Communist Party from 1936 to 1939. Quote, information is useful if citizens can put it into a framework of knowledge, and it is to solve problems, form values, make choices, educate sustainability that will help us make individual and collective decisions that both benefit themselves and promote the development of sustainable communities. It must involve everyone. President Clinton's Council on Sustainability Development. This agenda of brainwashing is not, as some anti-Christian educators and students contend, the biblical process of training our children to love and follow God. The word brainwashing refers to a planned step-by-step attempt to wash family-taught values from the minds of those who oppose government ideology. It is replacing biblical values and worldviews with a new way of thinking that would support a totalitarian agenda. In other words, every child must become a quote-unquote peace child and willing to become an quote-unquote active servant of a new world order. A massive worldwide partnership is pioneering new strategies for social transformation. The media, the entertainment industry, computer companies, government agencies, educational institutions, the United Nations, yes, the United Nations, the WHO, and the accredited non-governmental organization NGOs have all joined together in a common quest for global mind control. They seek solidarity, a worldwide unity based on a new set of beliefs and values, obsolete and exclusive loyalties to national sovereignty, biblical values, and the unadulterated constitution that stands in their way. That's the constitution of the word. Conforming to the masses, to their way of thinking, requires all sophisticated tools and tactics developed at the various behavioral science research institutes and educational laboratories established first in England, then in the Soviet Union, then in the Nazi Germany, and finally in the United States. If these psychosocial engineers win their battles against an unsuspected world, they would wash away individual thinking, free speech, and all other rights that have made the church unique. The vacuum would be filled with lofty ideals, enticing doctrine, encompassing images and deceptive promises designed to mold minds that match their global vision. Group thinking and other controls and incentives would enforce compliance. Their aim and their desire has always been to get the man away so that they could target the children. Their aim is to bombard children with mind-changing suggestions. A familiar tale told to first graders in Pennsylvania, USA, illustrates both the tactics and planned transformation of the world. We all know the story of Little Red Hen, who wanted some bread to eat. She asked some of her barnyard friends to help make it, but the cat, the dog, and the goat all said no. Finally, she did all the work herself. Yet, when the bread was done and its fragrance spread throughout the farm, her unwilling neighbors were more than willing to help her eat it. "Won't you share with us?" they begged. "No," she answered. "Since you didn't help, you don't get anything." In the context of traditional values, the moral story is you get what you work for. But those who have learned to think and see how the new global perspective are led to a different conclusion, listen to the kinds of questions the first grade teachers ask her class. Why was Little Red Hen so stingy? Isn't it only right that everyone gets to eat? Why wouldn't she share what she had with some who had done nothing to help her? The concerned mother who heard the reported story asks, what kind of values were taught to the children? The new interpretation emphasizes love and sharing, but what is missing? How might it confuse a child's values? The answers are obvious. The children were taught socialistic values. The new interpretation vilified values that had motivated Americans to be diligent, responsible, and fair. The teachers' questions were actually strategic suggestions, prompting the group to ridicule traditional values, to see realities and society from the new politically correct perspective, and to intimidate and shame anyone who dare to disagree. There has been a paradigm shift, a shift from thinking black is black and white is white to going in the center to a more gray area where nothing seems to be obvious anymore. What you thought was right is wrong, and what you thought was wrong was right. You are now confused. It is a focus on feelings and not on facts. This shift from factual education to feeling and experience-based learning began not today, but over 70 years ago, through the decades of strategic manipulations from way back in the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany. This type of feeling-based education was developed and is entering into school systems. It was first at Tavistock Clinic near London and later at Germany's Frankfurt School, originally called Frankfurt Institute for Social Research. Their mind-bending methods soon spread to a rising number of psychosocial research centers in America. They were fine-tuned in Columbia, Harvard, Stanford, and other American universities. At regional educational laboratories, Aspen Institute of Humanistic Studies, where Elian Gonzalez was remediated in preparation for his return to a communist system. Bob Beaufort, former head of the Drucker Foundation for Nonprofit Management and founder of the Leadership Network, is also taught the new quote-unquote Christian leadership methods at the Aspen Institute. More recently, at the 1989 Governors Conference on Education in Kansas, Dr. Shirley McCune, then head of the Mid-Continent Regional Educational Laboratory, summarized the policy in her keynote speech. Quote, "The revolution in curriculum is that we no longer are teaching facts to children. We no longer see teaching of facts and information as the primary outcome of education." Quote, "What will take place of logic, fact, and analysis in the coming age?" The rhetorical question was raised by Dr. Donald A. Cohen, President of Emeritus of the University of Dallas. His revealing answer exposes an important step towards the new consensus. It's easy to see why visionary change agents would prefer to inspire the imagination rather than to teach facts and logic. Unlike facts and convictions, the imagination can easily be manipulated. Today's popular books, games, and other forms of education bring all kinds of suggestions and images that confuse the old ways of thinking and promote the new values. They twist facts, turn right and wrong upside down, stir the imagination with the unthinkable suggestion, redefine words, and give new meaning to old images, such as Little Red Hen.
That was the advice I received as a young professional salesman. I didn't have any sales experience. I lacked confidence I was stuck in my sales. So I was told success begins by putting on the reality of who you want to be, dress the part. Now today, maybe you feel spiritually stuck and you look at yourself and you say, wow, you've got a long way to go. I mean, just look at you. The Apostle Paul, he has a word of advice for you. But that is not the way you learn Christ, assuming that you have heard about him and were taught in him as the truth is in Jesus, to put off your old self, which belongs to your former manner of life and is corrupt through deceitful desires, and to be renewed in the spirit of your minds, and to put on the new self, created after the likeness of God in true righteousness and holiness. You see, you don't need to dress who you want to be, because every Christian is a masterpiece according to Ephesians 2:10. You are a new person, therefore dress the part. You are a masterpiece whom God loves, no matter what you say or what you do. Dress the part. If you feel spiritually stuck, know who you are, a masterpiece created in Christ Jesus. If you're still struggling with the old sin habits, know first that God still loves you. Remember also that you don't have to perform for God's love. God has a new way of living. He has a new outfit, and he says, put it on. Don't believe me? Be renewed in the spirit of your mind by getting into God's word. God says to you today, you are a masterpiece. So dress the part today.
Don't want to die because deep in their hearts they know that they have not finished what they were born to start. That's why they don't want to die. When a person have discovered their purpose and have fulfilled their destiny, they welcome death. Death never threatens a human who discovers their purpose. The Apostle Paul, for example, was not afraid to die. As a matter of fact, the Apostle Paul died willfully. He decided to die. Let me quote him. I quote, I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. I have been poured out like a drink offering, and there's nothing left for me to do. I am now ready to be offered. He had this clear confidence about death. So please write these statements down, please. Very important. First, I want to talk to you about purpose and destiny. Write the two words down. And I want to focus on, in this first segment, the laws of personal success from a kingdom perspective. Let's talk about success for a minute. Proceed. Now, success is something that every human wants. Everybody wants to succeed. But for you to succeed in life, there are 5 questions you must answer. And every human being on earth is trying to answer these questions right now, including the person sitting in your chair right now. These 5 questions control the human race. These 5 questions motivate everything you do. These 5 questions are so powerful that they create everything in this planet that humans do. These 5 questions are the source of all of your problems. They are the source of all the crime in your city. They are the source of all of your broken homes and divorce. They are the source of all corruption. These 5 questions are the source of every problem a human faces is in these 5 questions. In other words, our attempt to find the answer to these 5 questions is the cause of all of our behavior. I have reduced all of human life to 5 questions. Write them down. Number 1, who am I? The tough question to answer. Most people have never asked nor answered that question because it's a frightening question. The average human never answers that question. Who am I? Now, the first question, who am I, is a question of identity. Write it down next to it. The average human is still struggling with self-identity. That is why most of us are other people. For example, you wear Michael Jordan. You don't wear yourself. You wear Pierre Cardin. That's oppression. You wear FUBU. You wear Sean John. These are people. Because you ain't got no identity, you want to be like them. So you need to put on other people's identity to feel important. You are sick. That's why your children are in gangs today, killing each other just to wear a Nike shoe. Because they're trying to get identity. They would kill for a coat suit. In other words, that's why you wear your weave. Oh boy, I'm getting deep now. And you want to dress like other people. That's why you follow the styles of the day. Because you have no identity, so you try to keep up with other people's style. You are battling with this question of, who am I? And some of you have lost your true self. You look like other people. It's a sign that you are battling with the question. You hate your own face. So you try to look like other people. You hate your own size. So you hurt yourself trying to be like other people. You just kind of can't find this, who am I? So you end up being somebody else. And that's why the entire industry of fashion is built on your lack of self-identity. They feed that by selling you other people's images. That's why you must let God be true. And every other product a liar. Don't get your measure from other products. Write this down. No one knows a product like the manufacturer. Tell your neighbor, mind your own business. You don't know who I am. So keep your thoughts to yourself.
Welcome back. There is an evil agenda for the male gender. Before that short clip on purpose by Dr. Miles Monroe, I spoke about the brainwashing of our society that has been happening through the United Nations. And now I want to continue. There is an evil agenda out there. You remember, consensus demands a felt crisis, and today's moral crisis is created by trading moral boundaries for sensual freedom. It serves the purpose well. The absence of absolute boundaries leads to social chaos, which in turn calls for social control that would have been unthinkable under the old paradigm or the quote-unquote normal way of thinking. But in this new world that we have called quote-unquote the new norm, in other words, the official promotion of sensual indulgence that serves political forces to promote their agenda. of a new world, quote-unquote, norm, or as we all know it to be, the new world order. As political and economical freedom diminishes, sexual freedom tends to be compensatingly increasing, and the indicator or the dictator will do well to encourage that freedom, in conjunction with the freedom to daydream under the influence of drugs, movies, radio, entertainment. It will help to reconcile his objective to servitude. No longer do we have individuals that are willing to think, but we have become so lazy into doing our own personal research that we have adopted the quote-unquote group think method. In other words, what the masses say, that is what we would believe. If the masses say this political party is good, then we would believe that. If the masses say this word, this new word that we are hearing is good, we'll believe that. If the masses say it is no longer sensitive to call a man a male, then we will go along with it. Psalms 2 fit our times. Why do the nations rage and the people plot a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let us break the bonds in pieces and cast away their cords from us. He sits in the heavens shall laugh. Then he shall speak to them in his wrath and distress them in his deep displeasure. Yet I have set my king on my holy hill of Zion. Blessed are all those who put their trust in him. In a UN published paper in the 30th of May 2019, Human Rights, it says, quote, to reflect critical advances in sciences and medicine, the World Health Organization, WHO, has removed so-called gender identity disorder from its official manual of diagnosis, which is being hailed as a major win for transgender rights. The update to the International Classification of Diseases has reclassified gender identity, gender disorder, or identifying as transgender in terms of sexuality, not a mental disorder. It is time for the world to recognize and celebrate the rich diversity of human nature. UN experts now as, quote, gender incongruence. Lael Say, the coordinator of WHO's Department of Reproductive Health and Research, explained that the move came about because the UN Health Agency now had a better understanding that it was not actually a mental health condition. On May 25th, WHO approved a resolution to remove, quote, gender identity disorder, end quote, from ICD-11 and created a new chapter dedicated to sexual health. The reclassification will reduce the stigma, quote, while ensuring, quote, access to the necessary health intervention, end quote, according to Ms. Say. Gender incongruence can be described as the feeling of anguish when an individual's identity conflicts with the sex they were assigned at birth. A, quote, major breakthrough, moving the disorder into WHO's new chapter for sexual health, will help lift discrimination, a major barrier to accessing prevention services, HIV testing, and treatment and care. Quote, we expect that this reclassification will impact very positively the wrong perception that some forms of gender diversity and pathologies of sickness, and that it will facilitate access to better health care, end of quote, said Victor Madrigal das Bolos, independent expert on protection against violence and discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity, and Daniel Puras, special rapporteur on the right to health. The UN experts welcomed the quote major breakthrough and call on states to review their medical classification and adopt strong proactive measures to eliminate the social stigma associated with gender diversity. They stressed that denying the existence of diversity or lifestyle choices leads to violence, including so-called corrective rape and conversion therapy, and to force cohesive and otherwise involuntary treatments and procedures to normalize quote sexual attractions or human bodies. Quote, it is time for the world to recognize and celebrate the rich diversity of human nature, end of quote. They concluded, snapshot of well-being. Because the data on disease and death reveal how a population is truly faring, WHO flags health statistics as true snapshots of a country's well-being, pointing out their importance as forming the basis for almost every decision made in healthcare. WHO calls ICD the bedrock code for health statistics. ICD codes can have enormous financial importance since they are used to determine where the best invest increasingly scant resources, WHO said. According to one gender identity advocacy organization, the reclassification will encourage people to put pressure on their own governments to adopt the ICD-11 in the coming years. You do not have to look far to find evidence of the fact that males are in trouble in these confused and confusing times. On the university campuses, women undergraduate students outnumber young men by a clear margin, 60% to 40%. In fact, in the last SCA examination, the first top 6 places were girls, with a young boy coming in the 7th place. A frightening percentage of young males are or have been behind bars, and the vast majority of young men are delaying their assumption of adult roles and responsibilities until well into their 20s or early 30s. A crisis of fatherlessness marks the lives of millions of boys and young men, with boys growing up without fathers in the homes, now compromising a majority within some ethnic groups and urban population at almost every level. Boys are performing well below girls and are often left behind as girls go on to more advanced levels of learning. Then adding insult to injury, reports from scientists indicate that both sperm counts and testosterone levels are falling among some boys and men. Blame on anything from hormone supplements in food chains to chemical contamination of groundwater. In many churches, young men and older boys are simply missing. In many churches, young men and young boys are simply missing. The absence of young men ages 18 to 30 is just a fact of life in many congregations. though this is especially acute in a mainline Protestant domination. It is increasingly true of many evangelical churches as well. One dimension of this problem is the difficulty of helping boys develop into manhood, a responsible, healthy, and meaningful manhood. Put simply, many of the most significant man-making institutions of our society are either gone or in big trouble. Military service is now both voluntary and no longer male-only. Organizations like Boy Scouts attract more opposition and fewer boys, even as the Boy Scouts of America marks the organization's centennial. That proud American institution that shaped the lives of so many boys is under marginal attack. Add absence of fathers to all this, and this society faces a challenge of unprecedented tragedy in human history. A society cannot survive without a means of assisting boys grow into responsible manhood. The same is true, of course, of the church. Only in the church the stakes are even higher. An enlightening and oddly odorous illustration of this social problem comes from the New York Times reporter John Hoffman. Tells of young boys now using hyper-masculine products in order to demonstrate their masculinity and advertise their male identity. Largely through the smells they put off. Hoffman tells of Noah and Kenan Asaraf, aged 13 and 14 respectively, who live near San Diego, where daily they walk out of the door in clouds of smoke. That's the spray that they use. As Hoffman explained, boys themselves at a younger age have become increasingly self-conscious about their appearance and identity. They are trying to tame their twitching, maturing bodies, select from a growing identities of egos and slackers, and position themselves with their texting, titillating, brand-savvy female peers who are hitting puberty even earlier. Interestingly, Hoffman reports that these products are often bought for boys by their mothers, simply reveal that their sons are thinking about body odors. Just about any mom will nod in agreement at this point, but where are the dads? These boys are acting out what society is telling them, urging them to become hyper-masculine, hypersexualized, hyper-consumers. You don't have to consult with Karl Marx to be leery of the marketing of these products to preteens. You do not have to know these boys to be saddened that they, while understandably and naturally desire to grow up into manhood, think that masculinity in a can is the way to get there. Their desire to identify as masculine is natural and healthy, even essential, but the lack of real support in getting their leads, it will cause them to go into a state of confusion. This much is clear. We are living in strange times. As I close, and the time is getting stranger by the minute. Churches and parents are right to be concerned about the new challenges of helping boys grow into manhood. The crisis is real, and this one demands urgent attention. Boys will never find real masculinity in a can, but boys can, and boys will become young men. And they should find respect for the examples of genuine manhood at church. What about your church? Today I would like to end evil agenda for the male gender for today. Join me again next week as I continue this very important topic. I hope you would like and share. And if you should have any questions, feel free. See you all next week. God bless.